Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's Foundation Friday for over 50s, we're going to be taking a look at Huda Beauty Faux Filter Foundation. This guy came out about a year ago. I picked it up in the early summer and started testing it in June/July of this year. Can't say I was really high on it at that time. I kind of loved it when I first put it on, but then within a few hours I kind of hated it. I felt like maybe it was because it was hot and it made me feel kind of sweaty, so I put it aside until the weather got cooler, and now I'm giving it another try and I'm ready to do the full review. Having tested it for 3 days, I can tell you what I think of this foundation. This retails for $40 for 1.18 ounces and comes in 30 shades. This is a full coverage velvety foundation that's good for all skin types. It has a natural radiant matte powder finish. I don't know how it can be powdery and radiant at the same time, but it actually is, weirdly. That is supposed to be long lasting and fade proof and smoothing. This comes in a plastic bottle. It's a really pretty bottle. It's got this nice ombre at the bottom, and it does have a pump dispenser, which I always like to see. This is a water, silicone, talc, and isodicane base. It does have a little bit of Estee alcohol in it. That's in 11th position, so I don't think there's enough in there to really like dry your skin or do any damage to your skin. It also does contain argan oil and vitamin E, but those are below the alcohol. So again, I don't think there's enough in there to really do anything to moisturize your skin. This does have a really super strong, heavy fragrance though. It hits you like a ton of bricks when you first put on the foundation. And this is also cruelty-free and paraben-free. Today I'm wearing it in 300N, which is the shade Latte. And I feel like this is a pretty good match for me. I think it's a little bit dark. I think you can see down here on my chest that my skin is a little bit lighter. So for the swatches on this one, the first one is Toasted Coconut 240N, which is deep light skin tones with neutral and golden undertones. Next to that is Cheesecake 250G, deep light skin tones with golden and peach undertones. And the last one is Latte 300N, light to medium skin tones with neutral undertones. In the other 3 days of footage, what I'm wearing is 240N Toasted Coconut. I feel like all the shades though lean towards the yellow side. They're all very warm. Even the ones that say that they're neutral, I feel like they're pretty warm. So let's go into the daily footage. On day one, I put it on with Smashbox Photo Finish Light Primer on one side of my face. I used a damp Beauty Blender sponge on the same side as the primer, and I used the Clarisonic foundation brush on the other side. This foundation has a pretty thick texture. It's almost got like a pudding-like consistency. I used a pump and a half and it gave medium to full coverage. The shade I felt was a tiny bit too light, but I felt like 300N was too dark. It wasn't seamless and easy to blend because it is so thick, but it does dry kind of quickly. So the coverage I felt was a little patchy, and it skipped over pores on the sponge side, on the side of my nose. The pores in general on my face look okay. I didn't feel like they looked filtered, but I didn't feel like they looked exaggerated either. But up close, it's a little more of a made-up look than I like, with a little bit of a heavier feel. The coverage is a high medium, so it was pretty good at disguising redness, but age spots would need a little bit of concealer if you wanted an absolutely perfect, flawless canvas. From a distance, I thought it looked really nice though. I did set my T-zone with Becca Hydro Mist powder, which minimized pores a little bit more. With the rest of my makeup on, I thought it looked really nice. It's matte, but it's not a flat matte. It does reflect a little bit of light, but not enough to make your wrinkles and your pores look bigger. So at the 5-hour check-in, I was loving this foundation from a distance. You know, like looking at it on the monitor, I think it looks just beautiful. And when I see it in a mirror, I think it looks just great. It's like smoothing, it's the perfect finish, it's the perfect amount of coverage, it's not going anywhere, it's staying in place. But as much as I loved it from a distance, I hated it up close. It's a little cracked, a little settled in the crow's feet. You see, it just kind of looks dry and cakey. Very obviously makeup-y. Wearing off a little bit under here. Then at the 12-hour check-in, I gotta say it did stay in place pretty well, but it was wearing off in a patchy way so that I had some pink showing through on my forehead. It's all kind of off on my upper lip, but gathered in here. All worn off at the edges of my nose. Really like greasy looking by the side there. All broken up on the surface in here. Shiny, textury and pory. Oh my god-y, helpy. All right, for the second day that I wore it, I used my Australian Gold sunscreen mixed with my Hydropeptide sunscreen. I used Too Faced Hangover RX setting spray as a primer, and I applied it with the sponge on one side. I used one pump of the foundation and worked in sections to get it to blend better before it dried, and my fingers on the other. It's just too thick and dry and doesn't spread well, so I switched to the sponge to finish the application on that side. I felt pretty much the same about it on day 2 as I did on day 1, so the primer and the different sunscreen really didn't make a huge difference. I thought that the finish was pretty, but that up close it was just okay. The coverage was just a little patchy on me, and I didn't feel like it really was sitting right on my skin. It looked fine from a distance, but it didn't look good up close. With the rest of my makeup on, I really liked how it looked. I felt like it played well with others, powders blended nicely with it, but it definitely gives a full coverage makeup look. At the 5-hour check-in, it was a super hot and humid day, and I'm so not happy about what this looks like. I feel like it just looks like a waxy mask of thick makeup. I look sweaty and kind of gross. Who's moving slowly back there? Is that you, Catherine? Yes, there's Catherine on this side, and there's Vuvi over here. It's settled in all my wrinkles up here. It's settled in all my wrinkles up here. It's cracking on the surface. I look like an escapee from the wax museum. This is just not good to wear on a hot day. At the 10-hour check-in, I felt like it had mainly stayed in place fairly well, except for the center of my face where it had slid around and worn off in patchy ways. It felt greasy and looked greasy all over my face, not just my T-zone, and it looked so bad up close, settled in wrinkles, pores looked huge, I looked waxy, patchy, flaky, and masky that I couldn't wait to wash my face and take it off. So during the summer months, this definitely was a mixed bag. While I really loved how it looked early on in the day, I felt like after 6 to 7 hours, it just went way downhill. It looked waxy, it made me look sweaty, and I just didn't like it. And now we will fast forward 3 or 4 months to the end of November, where I had a chance to try it yesterday, and we'll see how it goes in the cooler weather. So yesterday I put it on with my new favorite sunscreen. Oh, hold on you guys, let me tell you about this. This is from Elta MD. It is UV Elements Broad Spectrum SPF 44, and this is a tinted sunscreen. So if you have super light skin, it'll be way too dark for you. It's almost too dark for me, but if you can match the tint on this one, this is a beautiful sunscreen. It doesn't make your makeup settle in your wrinkles or wear shorter or slide around on your face or anything. And here's what it looks like in case you're interested in it. Really excellent sunscreen. So that's what I wore yesterday. Then I used Farsali Skin Tune Blur on half my face and a damp sponge to apply it all over. I used 3/4 of a pump of the foundation, and I felt like it gave me good coverage, but it might be because the sunscreen is tinted and they were kind of similar in color, and so it doesn't look as patchy as it had on previous days that I had tried it, where I was using more of a transparent sunscreen. I thought it looked really good. It definitely gave high, medium to full coverage. As on the previous days that I wore this, I love the finish and the little bit of smoothing that it gives me right when I put it on. There's a little more smoothing going on in the pores on the front of my cheeks on the Farsali side. So far, I'm really liking this, and I feel like it does give a bit of a smoothing look to start with. I can't say it lasts all day, unfortunately, but it did do something to start. So I had kind of a lot going on yesterday when I wore this. I was in the middle of taping a part of my review of the Dyson Airwrap, and so I'm wearing it in that video, and I've reviewed some of that, and I think it looks really, really nice. And then I did an Insta Story Q&A thing, and I thought it looked really, really nice in the Insta Story, and a couple people liked the foundation as well and asked me what it was. So I think it just has this something about it where it looks so good to start. So then I went to the mall to do some returns and to buy some stuff for the holiday lookbook. I ran into a viewer, had such a lovely time chatting with her, and so then I didn't come back to the camera till about 6.5 hours, and at that point I felt like the foundation looked really, really nice still. I felt like it looked almost just applied, like it really hadn't worn off at all. It was showing a little bit of redness around my nose, but that was about it. And it was about the same on both sides. So I don't feel like the primer really helped it to, you know, increase the wear. The primer just really seemed to help with the smoothing a little bit. There was a tiny bit of settling into wrinkles I noticed, like right up here and a little bit right along here, but nothing major. It didn't like crack and look awful, and it didn't make the wrinkles look bigger or worse. Then I came back for an 11-hour check-in, and from a distance I thought it still looked pretty good, and it was just showing a little bit of redness and wear around my nose. From a wear standpoint, I find that this is one of the longer wearing foundations that I've tried. It did get slightly shinier around my T-zone, and it looked a little bit waxy up close, but it wasn't shiny and greasy looking to the point that it had been during the hotter, humid weather. So I feel like this is definitely a no-go during the hot, humid summer months. I did have a little bit of dryness around my mouth, and super up close it did look patchy on my nose, my forehead, and my chin. So let's go ahead and do the last few tests. First, let's do the phone test. Here's our shiny, clean phone glass without a smudge on it. I actually feel like this one might be kind of transfer resistant, because I've noticed that of the days that I wore it, I was never complaining about it getting under my fingernails. Actually, the first 2 days of footage I was wearing white, and I don't recall it getting all over the collar of my shirt. So, and I'm wearing white again today. Oh my God, what is with this foundation and white? Anyway, so yeah, let's do the, oh, that's disappointing. Here, I thought it was going to be transfer resistant, but no, that is a huge glob of makeup. That one is failing our phone test. I know you guys are like, oh, does anything ever pass? I think a couple have. All right, so now let me go do the flash test. Oh my gosh, you guys, it really is blinding taking a picture of yourself at point blank range in a dark room with a flash. I have got spots in front of my eyes, but it is definitely giving me flashback in the picture. Look how white my face is compared to the rest of my body. I only powdered my T-zone, so here and under my eyes, but I gotta say, this powder is really good at not giving me flashback under the eyes. Which one did I use today? I know, I'm showing you all new products. The one I'm using now is the Lancome Long Time No Shine powder, and I am really, really liking this one. It's a really nice powder that really diffuses the look of your pores, doesn't give flashback under the eyes. That is key. Usually when I take a selfie like that at point blank range, all I can see is the texture in my forehead and on my cheeks and on my chin. And I don't really feel like I am that aware of them in this selfie. So I gotta give it to Huda for the thickness of the product does make it a little bit smoothing. The finish of the foundation does make it a little bit smoothing. So that's what it excels at, okay? But it does look kind of thick and masky and cakey. So let me go ahead and do the kitchen test. I'll go outside. I'm not sure what the light is like out there. I think it is kind of cloudy and overcast out, so I don't think we're gonna get the sunshine. It is so gloomy out today. Look at the sky. It's just literally like all clouded over. Let's put the kettle on. Hello critters, what are you doing? Synchronized relaxing. I think it looks all right, although yellowy definitely under this light, but up close. Well, I really like it again today, but I've only had it on for a little while, so it's probably gonna crash and burn like it usually does. Got my tea. It's so good. This is the, I know you guys are gonna ask, My favorite afternoon tea is Bigelow Decaf Green Tea. So good. I drink it with almond milk. So let's go over the pros and cons on this one. On the pros side, my favorite thing about this foundation is the finish. When you first put this on, it looks so beautiful. Another one is the slightly smoothing effect that it has because it is a thicker foundation. It doesn't just sink into your wrinkles and pores. It actually kind of fills them and smooths everything and makes it look a little bit smoother for a little while. It doesn't settle into your pores, giving that polka dot look. It definitely kind of smooths them over a little bit. It's not going to make them completely disappear. This was a very long wearing foundation. You know, in the summer when it was hot and humid, it didn't wear as well as in the winter. Right now it's wearing really, really well. Yesterday it wore well all day. I thought it looked pretty great all day actually. And that it dries down and feels set. I'm not aware of my face being tacky. I'm not aware of it coming off on my fingers or under my nails or on my collar. So those were the pros. On the con side are the fragrance. Very strong fragrance. Did not like that about it. That it is kind of a thick, heavy foundation that does look like makeup, especially up close. It does settle into wrinkles a little bit. It didn't like find wrinkles that I don't even know I have. It wasn't to that degree. It just kind of settles ever so slightly into your fine lines and wrinkles. It does get shiny later on in the day, especially if it's hot and humid out or if you have an oily T-zone. And once it gets shiny and mixes with your oils, it does tend to look a little bit waxy. It does get patchy later on in the day as it wears off. And in a darkened room with a flash, it does give flashback. I have such a love-hate relationship with this one. I can't stand it. I feel like it did do a little bit of faux filtering, but not enough and not long enough to make it worth my while. So if this foundation looks like your cup of tea, there are links to it in the info box below the video. But if this foundation isn't your cup of tea, then you can hop over to my blog, HotandFlashy.com, and type in the list in the search bar, and that will bring up the list of all the foundations that I've reviewed where I've ranked them in order from best to worst. So that can help you to narrow it down from the hundreds and hundreds of foundations that are out there to maybe the one or two that are going to be your Holy Grail foundation. Every time I put on a foundation like this and I'm like on the fence about it and I'm like, ugh, you know, it's good for a while but then not good, then I go back to wearing my Chanel Perfection Lumiere Velvet, and it reminds me why it's the Holy Grail, because not only does it look great the second I put it on, but it wears all day and I don't get shiny in my T-zone. It doesn't look like makeup. It looks really natural and beautiful, and it is a great foundation. Second runner-up is from the drugstore, and a very pretty good dupe for that one, except not quite as long wearing, is the L'Oreal True Match. This doesn't come with a pump, but I stole this off of another foundation that I have. And then third runner-up is Estee Lauder Double Wear Foundation. This one doesn't come with it pump either. For me, the wear isn't as long on this as on the Chanel either. So that is it for today's Foundation Friday for Over 50. I hope you found the video helpful and informative. If you did, give it a thumbs up, and while you're down there, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, and while you're there, don't forget to hit the notification bell right next to it. So thanks everybody for tuning in today. You know I always appreciate your time. So have a great day, and I will see you in the next video. Take care everybody. Bye-bye.